Ahoy music lovers, vinyl enthusiasts, and everyone in between. My name is Isaac, this is The Blind Island, and today I'll be going through my vinyl finds through the month of June thus far. And I already went through my record store day finds. If you want to watch that, you can follow my video from earlier, but this is going to be a rapid fire session, so let's try and get through this as quickly and painlessly as possible. So let's get started. We're going to start off with contemporary albums as always first, and get started with Squid. This is Bright Green Field, released this year, May 2021. This is also going to be a contender for an album of the year. Really great post-punk, funky krautrock grooves all over this thing. Love the vocals on here. It's really groovy, and I think that it really locks in. I think that it's incredibly catchy while being incredibly raucous, and for any fans of krautrock, this is really going to be up your alley. So really cool release here from the group Squid. Next is a reissue of a group that I've been wanting from quite some time. This is Doonjin, and forgive me if I butcher how to pronounce this, but this is Tadet Lucht. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this was the reissue here in the States, actually a European reissue. 1,000 copies only released, and it has this beautiful splatter, clear splatter. And this is psychedelic progressive rock from 2004. Some really great jammy instrumentals found on here. For any fans of that psychedelic prog music, Amandul 2 really comes to mind. So give this a shot. This is a fantastic record, and definitely one that's going to go up in price as time goes on. Then I got introduced to another fantastic soul label, GED Soul Records out of Memphis, and this is a album called The Coolant System by the band of the same name. It's their self-titled release. Released in 2011, I want to say, and this is just really great, groovy beats with jazz influence. They take a lot of that boogaloo jazz from the 60s on Blue Note and bring an even more soulful, funky edge. This is definitely for fans of Budos Band and El Michaels Affair, Menhan Street Band. This is going to be right up your alley. I picked up a copy super cheap online. I'm very happy. The GED Soul is a great label. I don't know if they're still coming out with stuff, but this is a really great album. And another one from the GED Soul label, this is Sky High Testify. This is really amazing vocals and some really great backing bands. This really reminds me of Lee Fields and the Expressions, Sharon Jones, and the Dap Kings. If you're into that style, Sky High is really going to be up your alley. I wish I could do some more needle drops, but I've been getting some copyright claims lately and getting my videos suppressed, so I'm going to hold off, but this is a high recommendation here for some fantastic neo soul. Then I found this one at a small antique mall in Washburn, Wisconsin. This is Brian Wilson's 2008 album, That Lucky Old Sun. This is one that has continued to climb in my estimation each time I spin it. I've spun this probably the most out of any record that I've gotten. I'm a huge Beach Boys fan, and the artwork on here, I just love that lush, beautiful, bright artwork, and it matches the music that's found within. This was released in 2008 and made by the same people who Brian worked with to recreate Smile in 2004, and you can just hear the energy that's busting and bursting forth on here. Lots of beautiful, lush production found. Great album. I'm probably going to talk about this one more in depth as I have some more to say about it, but this is a really great solo album, probably my favorite solo album from Brian Wilson, and coming in at a close second to Pacific Ocean Blue from Dennis Wilson. All right, now for if this wasn't released in 2021, this would be on my top end year-end list. it might still make it because I have been listening to this album nonstop. But this is Logan Ledger. This is his self-titled debut album, and for fans of neo-Americana, traditional country, and rockabilly sound, this is gorgeous, gorgeous country music. His vocals remind me of a mix of Roy Orbison and Chris Isaak. He has this wonderful lilting quality to his baritone voice, and the steel guitars that just kind of swirl around him throughout the entirety of the runtime really, really makes this a magical step back in time. This is an easy 5 out of 5 for me. Another one that is a high recommendation. If you haven't listened to Logan Ledger and you're a real big fan of traditional Americana with a little bit of a modern tinge, it was produced by T-Bone Burnett. This is really going to be up your alley. Now we're on to the used LPs, and this first one is Same Train, A Different Time. Merle Haggard sings the great songs of Jimmy Rogers. And this is just a really great Merle Haggard country album where he interprets Jimmy Rogers songs. And if you haven't listened to Hag before, he is one of the best country artists of all time. Highly recommended. And then I have Milwaukee group, actually, and this is their second LP, and to me this is a far better release. This is Ramblin' On by A.B. Sky. This is a really nice blues rock album with a little bit of psychedelic tinges throughout. I think that this is just a really nice slice of Wisconsin pride here. Really happy to have this one in the collection, and they got it for a cheap price. It's usually it's not a very expensive record. It usually goes for $25, $30, but happy to have this one in. It definitely rocks. And then I recently have been on a big Star rampage, listening to all of their material again, and that made me want to go and listen to Chris Bell and Alex Chilton and their side projects. And Alex Chilton was in this group when he was only 16 years old, and that is the Box Tops. This is The Letters / Neon Rainbow. This is a pretty traditional blue-eyed soul and rock pop from 4 very young teenage guys. I mean, these types of groups were a dime a dozen, but the thing that separates this album from many others is the song The Letter, used in so many soundtracks and so many playlists. It really is just synonymous with the 60s sound. It's a great tune and definitely worth the $1 that I spent to get it, so really happy to have this just for that song alone. Then another addition to the CTI collection. This is one of the best albums on CTI. My personal opinion, this is Milt Jackson, Sunflower. Probably his best solo album. He is with Herbie Hancock, Freddie Hubbard, Ron Carter, and Billy Cobham. And Freddie Hubbard is really just showcased heavily on here. This is a really good jazz album. Nice fusion work throughout, and just lovely, really lovely stuff. So if you're looking to get into fusion, this might be a good spot for you to go to. And then I have a piece that was missing from my Johnny Cash collection, and that is Johnny Cash Orange Blossom Special. This was released at the height of the folk revival, and everyone was kind of jumping on the train for releasing more traditional folk songs, and literally Johnny is on a train, and he is singing some pretty traditional songs here, as well as 3 original Dylan tunes. It Ain't Me, Babe, Don't Think Twice, It's Alright, and Mama, You've Been on My Mind. Interesting fact, Mama, You've Been on My Mind had never been released, and Johnny was the first person to ever cut it to a record. So Dylan gave him his blessing to cut this song. And this is definitely one of Johnny's strongest studio albums. I highly recommend you check this one out if you never have before. Then we get back into my soulful, groovy disco funk, and this is In the Mood with Tyrone Davis. This is a promo copy from Columbia, and this is for fans of Barry White, Isaac Hayes, and even late period Stevie Wonder. This is just good, sexy music. Definitely reminds me a lot too of Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On. This is music that you put on before you bring your lady into the bedroom. This is a great, great soul album. I'm very, very happy to have this one in the collection. And then we have some more garage surf rock. I love my surf music. And this is kind of hot rod, cycle exploitation. And this is a soundtrack for The Devil's Angels. And this is primarily soundtracked by Davey Allen and the Arrows. They have just some really amazing fuzz pedals on here. There are a couple of tracks on here with vocals that do not work. They are not good. But everything else on here is just solid work. I love Ghost Story. That is just psychedelic masterpiece. A little 2-minute piece of guitar wizardry. So I really recommend anyone who's into this kind of cycle, hot rod, surf music, this is going to be really up your alley. Then another great soul album by one of the most incomparable female vocalists of the late 60s, early 70s. This is Minnie Riperton, Adventures in Paradise. And this is a quadraphonic release, a little bit more difficult to find. And man, this is a beautiful album. This was the direct follow-up to her second album, and I want to say Precious Angel was the title, but you know, I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments. I'll correct myself. But she had gone huge on that, had the gold album with that, and she was riding high. Stevie Wonder did not produce this record, and it just kind of flopped. It didn't really go anywhere. I mean, by today's standards, it probably would have been a hit, but by the standards of 1974, it was not. It was kind of a flop, and so people thought she was a one-hit wonder. While this, I think, is just as good as Precious Angel, if not even a little better. I love all of the tunes on here. It's a lush, beautiful piece of 70s soul funk. And if you haven't listened to Adventures in Paradise by Minnie Riperton, if you've been only listening to Precious Angel, I highly recommend you give this one a shot. Then we have a classic of 60s psychedelia, and this is The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. This is the Atlantic reissue that came out the same year, but this is a classic. It had a huge impact on psychedelic and metal music moving forward. It contains the Fire Suite on the first side with the big hit Fire. And I think that this is just a really fun record, and it's just cheap heat. You know, you can usually pick this one up between $5 to $10, depending on the pressing, but this is a great record. Glad to finally have it in the collection. And another one that I was super happy to find, this is Tim Buckley's Hello, Goodbye, or Goodbye and Hello. This is, this kind of rounds out my Tim collection. I only need, I'm blanking on the titles, but it was the one that came out directly after Happy Sad. I'll remember it later and then be kicking myself. But this is a great piece of folk psychedelia from 1967. You can obviously tell the Sgt. Pepper's has started to bleed into Tim Buckley's music, but for being a second album from a very young man, I think he was only 21 when this was released. I'm also might be wrong on that, but it's light years away from the self-titled debut that he had a year ago. He sounds way more confident. There's so many other instruments that are going on in this record, and it is just really, really good. I love this record. There are moments where it does become self-indulgent, but overall, a very, very strong LP from a very young man. Then another Wisconsin album from Appleton, Wisconsin. This is a group called Soup, the album Soup. This one gets kind of lower to middling reviews online, and I don't see why. This is a strong blues rock album with psychedelic tinges, very much in the vein of A.B. Sky, and I just love the opening track, Dance Magic Woman. That is a great opening tune, and really cool to find a cheap copy of this. You can usually find copies of this for $10, and anyone who says that this is worth more than that, they're lying to you, but this is a really cool album. Very happy to have it. Then another one that was actually showcased in at Noble Records from Dylan, and this is the 70s funk group ISIS, a all-female group, and geez, just incredible musicianship on here, really strong, interesting psychedelic imagery. I think funkadelic, just all women. They're really cool and all over the place. I love this album, highly recommended. Again, I do a needle drop here, but just go seek it out. You can find the album on YouTube, and I really recommend you go and just listen to it. Then we're starting to get into the tougher to find things here. This is an original UK pressing of the Pogues' Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash. This is definitely one of my favorite from that Celtic folk movement that came in the mid-80s to late 80s. And I mean, it's a classic for a reason. And I can't believe that I found it at the price that I did. It was only $12. And I mean, this thing is near mint. It's cherry. It's, I mean, again, not an incredibly expensive album, but one that is really cool to have in the collection. And another one that, again, isn't incredibly expensive, but I never ever see it out in the wild. This is Malcolm McLaren's Duck Rock. And this one has some of the earliest examples of hip-hop and table scratching. And it's just a great sample record because the album is all over the place. And to some people, that's a detriment. To me, I think that is what makes this album interesting, fresh, and unique. Even 40 years on, this is still a really cool album to be listening to and putting on the turntable. Then we have another one that is frequently sampled. This is Bob James 1. This is an original CTI release, and a lot of people, this is getting harder to find because people are realizing how much it has been sampled, especially the tune Nautilus. Really good stuff. Bob James kind of has a mixed opinion for people who like jazz, but to me, I think that he is his early material definitely worth seeking out. This is a great record. And then we have a blaxploitation soundtrack from one of the greatest jazz guitarists of all time. This is Grant Green, The Final Come Down. Again, another album that gets kind of lower reviews online. I think that's because people want it to be a Grant Green jazz album, and it's not necessarily. It's really that funk blaxploitation sound, where a lot of chugging guitars, a lot of strings, a lot of it's a soundtrack. And I think it really works for what it needs to. And again, just showing how dexterous Grant Green was, that he could literally work within any genre that was thrown at him, really willing to work in the funk vein. And this is just an incredible blaxploitation soundtrack. Definitely one of my favorites, and so happy to finally have one on wax. And then another one that was really cool to find. This is Another Green World by Brian Eno. A classic, everyone knows about it, everyone should know about it, and I don't really need to say much more about it, just really happy to have it in the collection. And then we have another one that I talked about, Canned Heat, Living the Blues, found it last time for Record Store Day. This is its cousin, and probably even better than Living the Blues, in my opinion. This is Hooker and Heat, and this is just such an incredible album. Truly electric blues done right, and also a band having a guest showing up done right, because they truly do back up John, and rather than John trying to fit into Canned Heat's chemistry. It just works. It works on so many levels. That's what's been playing in the background. And John Lee Hooker is my favorite blues singer of all time. And I really enjoy it. If you haven't listened to Hooker and Heat, or you've been kind of turned off to Canned Heat in the past, give this one a shot. I think that you'll be very, very pleased with what you hear. And then classic of the UK kind of second wave invasion. This is Talk Talk, The Color of Spring. This is an original US promo copy, and this is a beautiful, lush synth pop record. I find myself just really enjoying it right now with summer. It is one of those that I can just spin and find myself grooving to, and it just has a wonderful feeling to it. So if you haven't listened to Talk Talk, The Color of Spring, give yourself a treat to your ears and listen to it. And then finally, probably the best find of the month thus far, even to the record store day finds. This is an original copy of Gene Clark's No Other. This is just one of the best. I don't even know how to quantify it, qualify it. I would potentially call it country rock. It's kind of in the vein of Neil Young's On the Beach or Tonight's the Night, but I even prefer this one to those. It kind of has a Townes Van Zandt quality to it. There's just some really great guitar work throughout, and the songwriting on it is so strong, so beautiful. And it was a very ambitious project that was not really looked upon well at the time. It was panned by critics and didn't sell very well, and has only now, in the past 10 years, been realized as a classic and a masterpiece, and it definitely is. Very, very happy to have this one in the collection. Whew! Alright guys, well that was June's vinyl find so far. What did you think? Anything that you would want in your collection, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be coming at you with a deep listen video here very soon. And as always, I hope that you have a great day on your own personal oasis. Cheers.